So a very warm welcome everyone for joining us today for this important discussion on community safe spaces for children. Right now we have like 34 participants have already joined. I think in the meantime more participants will be joining. But since we thought of starting at 3, we're not going to wait further. So on behalf of IACN and its team, CINI and the Hope and Homes, we really would like to welcome everyone for this discussion today. Before we move forward, we'll just have a quick Zoom housekeeping so that this whole session goes very smoothly and without any disturbance. I would request everyone to please to introduce yourself in the chat box with your name, organization, and the state that you belong to. Also, please make sure that your mics are off. If you have any question, any comment, please raise your hands and our colleagues will reach to you to ask you to share your questions later. Also, try and keep your videos on so that we can see each other during the discussion as well. If you have any comments or anything that you would like to share, you can use the chat box. And also make sure that while you're discussing any case study or you're sharing any example, make sure that you do not disclose the name of the child and his or her identities. We need to protect the identity and confidentiality of the children. In the presentation, you would see there are some children who are, the faces of the children are seen, and there are some pictures of the children. We have used these pictures with the consent of the children and their adults, like adults in their families. So this is done in compliance with the policy, photography policy of IACN. So again, a very warm welcome. And as you know, IACN hosts this sessions every month to discuss, to bring forth the issues that are important to strengthen the family-based, community-based and family-based systems in India. And this is another effort on this part. And this time we are collaborating with Hope and Homes and CINI to bring you the discussion on community safe spaces. So in the whole 1.5 hour session, we will be discussing what these community safe spaces are, what are the practices in India and in abroad. So these are going to be the part of discussion today. So the agenda would be, we have few speakers with us to share their experiences. First, we have Ms. Lena Das Gupta from CINI. She will be setting the context for community safe spaces, why there is a need to talk about it and how it is important when we talk about family strengthening. Then we have Mr. Mark Riley from Hope and Homes. He will be taking us through what exactly the concept is, where this concept is coming from, how it can be used to strengthen family and also to prevent separation. Then we have a very interesting panel discussion, and for the panel discussion we have Mr. Ashfaq Ahmed Mattu from Jammu and Kashmir Association for Social Welfare. This is an organization based in Jammu and Kashmir and has been active from last 18 years working on the rights of children. Then we have Ms. Silpa Jaiswal, project manager at CINI. She's part of the community safe spaces of CINI and working on the project. And then we have Mr. Ved Prakash Tiwari. He is a DCPO, District Child Protection Officer in Ranchi. So they will be discussing about their models, what their models is, and how these models can also help in family strengthening. Yes, so this is going to be then we will be opening the floor for question and answer. We would really appreciate a very interactive discussion. Ask as many questions as you can, and it would be I really want it to be a very interactive session. Okay, and then we have with us Mr. JB Oli, who would be sharing the closing remark and a vote of thanks to everyone. If you have any questions, please use the chat box and raise your hands in between, but would request everyone to try and wait for your turn and not to, unmute your mic and ask the question in between, just to make sure it goes very smoothly. So with that note, I will now request Ms. Lena Das Gupta to please come in and set the context for the session. Over to you, Lena.
Thank you so much, Kavita. And really, it's a great initiative taken by India Alternative Care Network, IACN, and that promoting this exchange of learning and dissemination of knowledge is really important and significant through these webinars. So today, through this webinar, we will try to understand various models of safe spaces that prevalent in international and national context, and how it works in prevention from risk situation arising from poverty, alcoholism, school dropout, risk of separation, institutionalization, uh, supporting birth parents and kinship parents, etc. That to be discussed by today. And as a human being, be it adult or a child, everyone feels that to be comfortable and to be in some kind of safe spaces, And as an adult, sometimes we create those safe spaces by our own. But for children who have, children have their own issues or their own world. They have fantasy, they have childhood or adolescent issues, some secret, and many confusion, hesitation, doubt, and maybe also adverse environment. For them, this community safe space is very much significant, as we already saw. And safe space is not only a room or a well structured place, but a combination of mindsets, values, so that children will get better opportunities to thrive their lives. So today we will discuss more that as an adult, as a system, how we can equip individual or organization to create those safe spaces around us. Some learning to share, some takeaways to document. That's the objective of today's webinar. And of course, some technical part like through this webinar, we may see clarity on objective as well as the principles, how we integrate those principles in the safe spaces, and of course, challenges and sustainability. That's the most important thing. So that is the context, and we will listen to our speakers. Thank you, Kavita.
Thank you so much, Lena, for setting the context. Now we will be moving to our first technical session by Mr. Mark Riley. He's from Open Homes, and he would be giving us a presentation on community safe spaces. Over to you, Mark. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Kavita. And thank you for that, Lena, set in the context. My job this evening really is to maybe look at safe spaces from a more global perspective and think about it in terms of what happens in safe spaces and given a few examples of safe spaces. So yeah, if you could move on to the next slide, please. Um, I got asked to really think about safe spaces and to talk about safe spaces as a part of the system to prevent separation of children and to strengthen families, and also their role in the alternative care system. If you look at some of these things on the screen, which are functions that safe spaces often host, you can see that all of these things are key parts in strengthening families, strengthening communities. When we talk about safe spaces within communities, and they are called different things in different parts of the world, even within India, they are called different things. So I don't think we should get too hung up on the word safe space, but the community centers, community hubs, and safe spaces offer amazing potential to really partner and support communities. In terms of child protection, we really see safe spaces as a safe space. They are as they are called, that allow children to attend where they are in a safe, happy space within the community, shielded from abuse, exploitation, and violence, and where we can add services to the safe space that they can access. Uh, Child-friendly environments also foster play and learning, and I think fun and learning for children is really important, of course, but also they can lead to other things becoming better for children. So when children are comfortable and when they are happy and playing, they are more likely to be in a very trusting environment and start opening up to the people within the safe spaces. So this is a really significant thing for children to feel that they trust and they have a space and that they can approach people in safe spaces. Also, safe spaces offer us amazing opportunities to interact with parents and carers and offer some support services, even peer-to-peer support services, which are very key in safe spaces and community hubs. And it's a great way for people to often self-identify that they have a problem in their family that they need some help with. That's also a really critical part of safe spaces. And then they can be signposts to different services which may be available. Also, we see safe spaces as a part of the educational system. We know that children are very vulnerable when they drop out of school, and safe spaces can often be a place where children can get educated, catch up education. Maybe they do some basic literacy and numeracy training, education. And also, we can be signposting children to rejoin mainstream school systems. This is a critical part of it. Also, vocational and recreational learning activities can take place in safe spaces. Health and nutrition. We've seen safe spaces used if there isn't a very localized health facility. Safe spaces are often used to disseminate health information, immunizations, support, and help children to learn about diet and all of those good things, and can really promote physical and mental health well-being. During COVID, we saw a lot of safe spaces in the world and community hubs repurposed in order to provide health services and information and masks and even vaccinations in many communities. So they served as a real great place for those things. Also, community building, diverse groups, children and adults with disabilities using the safe space to meet, to collaborate together, to share their challenges, and also to speak to the community leaders about their challenges in order to gain some solutions. So we really see our safe spaces, and we see safe spaces around the world as places which can help to facilitate marginalized groups to have more agency within communities and really to have the peer-to-peer support that they can. Also, and I'll give some examples on the next slide, safe spaces are also critical in terms of emergency shelters or resource hubs when there's natural disasters, conflicts, or social crises. This can be a hub that the community can use and respond to some of the more difficult challenges they have in their communities. Also, I'll give some examples where cultural preservation, safe spaces, community hubs can offer fantastic opportunities for Indigenous communities to learn about and celebrate their heritage in order that that connection to their heritage is kept alive. And as populations become more transient, they move around a lot. Safe spaces can be a permanent place where people always have that cultural reference and can join up with similar groups. And also great places for people to meet and share information, health information, information about child protection, and advocate for changes within their community. We also see a lot of safe spaces, whether they are informal or informal, part of the government system or not part of the government system. We also see where government are very happy for government functions to operate from within safe spaces. And we see this as a huge benefit where this is communities and frontline social welfare and health workers coming together and meeting, and a convergence of all of those things. So you may ask what that has to do with alternative care. Well, I think that looking at all of these activities here within safe spaces are critical in terms of keeping families together, strengthening families, and also a critical thing when children are reintegrated back to communities, safe spaces can also act as a place where children can go and be monitored and provide some support services for families whose children have been reintegrated. So safe spaces and community hubs are really very important in terms of prevention of separation and family strengthening. Some examples that I've put here across the world, of course, there are many, many, many examples, but I've put a few in different contexts. we can see from many of these examples where safe spaces and community hubs, and they're all called something a little bit different. As you can see, they've all got different names, that they offer very, very different but similar services. So in Australia, for instance, there's cultural safe spaces offering health, education, and parenting support to Indigenous populations. The impact has been tremendous in Australia. And then we can see similarly in Canada, the same kind of thing, which promotes cultural identities and family support and healing. And then you can see other examples from Mexico and from Colombia, where they are directly working with vulnerable communities. Mexico, particularly, where many of the communities are violence prone. Safe spaces can literally be a very safe space for children to feel safe and get services that they need. In Mexico, direct correlation between children attending such community centers and the reduction in the number of children then joining gangs and getting into gang violence. I've also put two other examples in here. One is in Uganda, where there are child-friendly spaces in refugee camps, which offer psychosocial support services for children. And a key part of the UNICEF response to the displaced people which end up in Uganda, and there's many displaced people in Uganda. Also an example from the UK, where we also have very vulnerable communities in very poor areas where safe spaces were acting. Sadly, the last government closed many of the safe spaces, and they were a part of the government system. But some areas have kept safe spaces going, called Sure Start centres in Northern Ireland. They still exist, and they provide a lot of parenting support, parenting workshops, early education, health service, advice. And so you can see around the world, the concept of having a community safe space is incredibly important for keeping families together, prevention of separation, and to keep communities alive and active and collaborating together. I just wanted to give you one very good example in Rwanda. Open Homes for Children have been working in Rwanda for many, many years. A key part of the care reform process in Rwanda was transitioning CCIs into community hubs, and in India, similarly to safe spaces. Now, the outcomes of when we've repurposed CCIs into community hubs has been tremendous. The impact has been great on the communities. It's increased the ability of families to stay together. It's reduced the amount of child abandonment and separation. It's improved outcomes for children, education and development of children. It's improved the health and well-being for children, and these are key outcomes which we've researched and monitored. There's higher household. Oh, could you just go back for 1 second? There's higher household incomes and livelihood security, increased community cohesion. And one of the last point is stronger family and community agency. We see in Rwanda that communities having their own agency to be able to make their own decisions and decide what the safe space and what the community hubs do has been a tremendous benefit for the whole community. So there are some really good examples across the world of safe spaces or community hubs or lots of different names, as you can see. And one last point on the Rwandan community hubs, they were actually the inspiration for the safe spaces which we now see in Jharkhand. A team from India came to Rwanda some years back, and they really captured the vision and saw that this could actually work in India, even as a part of the government systems where government support schemes can converge and be offered to the community. And I know we'll learn a little bit more about that later. But thank you for listening. I'm sure the presentation will be available from IACN, and we are happy to answer any questions. And I've stuck to my time, which I know Kavita will be very delighted with. So thank you very much. I think Shubhadeep is going to do a little translation.
Hi, Mark, can I come in here? Yeah, I think not Shubhadeep. Lena will be doing a little
Okay,
presentation.
Lena,
But
thank
before
you.
that, there is a question which had come from the registration. So when I'll just ask this question if it is okay. I mean, I don't know who had put that question earlier. So there is a question when we talk about community safe spaces. So how the person with disability can be included, and what kind of support people or children with disability can get through this community safe spaces?
I think that's a great question. And one of the programs that we're working on in India at the moment is to prioritize people with disabilities to prevent separation and to be reintegrated. I see community hubs and safe spaces as a key place. There is this tendency across the world, and particularly in India, to build services for children with disabilities or people with disabilities within institutions, and then children and adults get placed in institutions. What the safe space allows us to do is build those services within the community systems and within communities themselves. As an example, physiotherapy. That could be something if the community identifies that there's people that need physiotherapy or mental health support, then let's build those services within the community, which are accessible to people with disabilities in the community, but also all of the other people in the community that can benefit from them, not just the people who get placed into residential settings. So it's a great question. And I think we need to look at the community and look at the vulnerabilities and look at the people in the communities and see what services they need to keep them safe and healthy within the communities, not pushing them out of communities, and making sure they have their agency and services within the community.
Okay, thank you. That's very wonderful to see. Like if there is a need, so people can also identify the needs and can provide services to people, to person with disabilities also. Thank you. I think we have few minutes before we go to the next session. If any participant has any question, they can unmute themselves and ask the question directly, or you can put the question in the chat box and we can take up to Mark. So anyone has any questions so far? If based on the presentation and the concept that we just learned about the community safe spaces from different parts of the country and how it is being helping families to stay together. Any participant, any question? I think it's a little early for everyone to ask questions, but we might come back to you, Mark. And since I think this was really an interesting presentation, I would now request Lena to give a brief in Hindi so that there are people who are more comfortable with Hindi will understand it much better. And Lena, over to you.
थैंक यू कविता एंड मार्क के प्रेजेंटेशन से हम लोगों को जो मिला है दैट इज ये टर्मिनोलॉजी कैन बी मतलब बहुत सारे नाम से हम पहचानते हैं ये सेफ स्पेसेस को, लेकिन दुनिया भर में ये सेफ स्पेसेस का काफी सारे एग्जांपल उन्होंने शेयर किया हम लोगों के साथ, और उन्होंने बोला कि दैट सेफ स्पेस किस तरह से एक्चुअली काम करते हैं कम्युनिटी पे, जो बच्चे को मतलब अट्रैक्ट करते हैं, उनको हैप्पी रखते हैं, और दिस इज हाउ मतलब कि सिर्फ चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन ही नहीं, एक सेफ स्पेस में एजुकेशन से लेके फैमिली सपोर्ट, हेल्थ, न्यूट्रिशन, फिर कम्युनिटी बिल्डिंग, ये सब कुछ मिला के एक बच्चे की पूरा परवरिश के ऊपर सेफ स्पेस का वो सपोर्ट मिलता है, देन एक सेफ स्पेस अच्छे तरह से काम कर सकते हैं। और उन्होंने जो ग्लोबली जो दिखाया है, उन्होंने बहुत सारे देश के बारे में बताया जहाँ पर सेफ स्पेसेस है, ताकि नाम में भी बहुत सारे नाम से उनको जाना जाता है, लेकिन कनाडा, मेक्सिको, कोलंबिया, यूके, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, यहाँ का उन्होंने कुछ आइडियाज दिया है। और उन्होंने ये भी बताया कि रुवांडा का एक केस स्टडी उन्होंने शेयर किया, जहाँ पर एक कम्युनिटी किस तरह से ओनरशिप लेते हैं, मतलब एक कम्युनिटी जो एक सेफ स्पेस को चलाने के लिए सिर्फ वो कम्युनिटी किस तरह से उसका पूरा मदद करते हैं और पूरा ओनरशिप लेते हैं, ये वाला एक्सपीरियंस उन्होंने शेयर किया। और उन्होंने ये भी बताया जो आदिवासी और ट्राइबल या इंडिजिनस पीपल है, उनके लिए जो बच्चे देकर उन्होंने खुल के बात कर सकते हैं, उन्होंने उनका हेरिटेज जो है, उनका जो बैकग्राउंड है वो जान के वो हेल्प करते हैं, या फिर वो सेफ स्पेस को वो यूज कर सकते हैं। तो ये वाला कुछ एग्जांपल उन्होंने दिया है, और उनका प्रेजेंटेशन का इन नटशेल जो बात है कि दुनिया भर में ये प्रचलित है और किस तरह से इसको लर्निंग को हम आगे लेके जाएंगे, जैसे कि रवांडा मॉडल अभी झारखंड में इम्प्लीमेंट हो रहा है, तो इस तरह का एक मॉडल कहाँ पर दूसरे रेप्लिकेट कर सकते हैं, दैट कैन बी अ लर्निंग। थैंक यू, ओवर टू कविता।
Thank you so much, Lena, for translating it for our participants. Now we will be moving to our next panel discussion. For the panel discussion, we have again Lena Dasgupta Basu from CINI. She will be moderating this panel discussion. And we have three panelists here. One is Ms. Silpa Jaiswal from CIDI. She's a project manager. Then we have Mr. Ashfaq Ahmed Matto, Executive Director of Jammu and Kashmir Association for Social Welfare. And then we have Mr. Ved Prakash Tiwari, DCPO, Ranchi. So we'll be again going to Lena. Please go ahead. Thank you, Lena.
थैंक यू कविता। हमारे 3 पैनलिस्ट के ऊपर ऑलरेडी कविता ने इंट्रोडक्शन दिए हैं, तो हमारे पैनलिस्ट के पास हम जाएंगे क्योंकि हमको ग्लोबल पिक्चर वी हैव रिसीव्ड, नाउ वी हैव टू मूव ऑन आवर नेशनल पिक्चर्स, हाउ दीज एक्चुअली इम्प्लीमेंटिंग इन द फील्ड लेवल. So, taking from her cue, I can go first with the first panelist, Silpa Jaiswal, project manager CINI. और हम we can talk to her, we can know, I mean, in a detail for better understanding. I would like to invite Shilpa here first to present the Jharkhand model of safe spaces and how it is prevalent and how it and how she prepare it much more attractive or interesting. That we can directly hear from Shilpa first. Over to you, Shilpa.
सभी को नमस्ते और जोहार. First of all, thank you, Dr. Kavita and Miss Lena, for setting the context and such a warm introduction and introducing me as well. So yes, we got an understanding what community safe space look like and at the global level as well. But now please allow me to take you to the national perspective. And I also want to say that good afternoon to all the people present here for this webinar. So can I just request Kavita to move on the slide, please? Yes. So as I said, Child in Need Institute CINI is working at the Jharkhand, and we are trying our best to make a preventive model, and community safe space is one of them. So let us first discuss that why community safe space, where's the need come from? Next slide, please. So again, please. Yes. So as we know that in Jharkhand, the tribal communities and the slums in Ranchi, children are facing so many kind of vulnerabilities like child labor, child marriage, dropout, malnutrition, and any other kind of vulnerabilities. And that is actually why it is happening because of lack of proper parental care. Parents are involved in substance abuse consumptions and different socio-economic crises. But this vulnerability gets worse when children don't have any adequate space to talk about it, to share about it. You know, a space where they can share about their needs, want, and concern. Why? Because all the community platform which are participatory and decision making are dominated by adult, and unfortunately children don't get any space out there to talk about it. But any other human being, children also have their specific needs and right to cater to provide, and thus it is very important to hear children. But just because of lot of vulnerability, unheard children fall in trap to the many vulnerabilities which actually which actually lead unnecessary family separation. Next slide, please. Yes. So as I said, that children fall into the trap of vulnerability and which leads to unnecessary family separation. It is very much important to work at the preventive level. And once a children is identified or before in the harm or risk situation, it is very important to intervene with them. And that's how we intervene, working with the community, family, and children. In this preventive approach, there is one of innovation that we call community safe space. What is community safe space? How CINI defines community safe space? it is nothing but just a space which is being owned by community and situated in a community accessible places where any children 6 to 19 years and adolescent can easily access that without any discrimination basis on caste, class, gender. These safe spaces ensure children's participation, development, and protection, right? And give them a space to talk about their own needs and requirement. This safe spaces not only work for the children but also work as a knowledge hub for the community, because it is very important when you want to ensure the rights of the children to work with the families and the community. These safe spaces also work for the child protection committee for doing an early identification of the vulnerability and immediate response through different case management mechanism, and linking the children and family with different welfare scheme. So this is a complete package which provided to the children and the community to ensure that children can enjoy all their rights. Next slide, please. So, as I said, any institution, it's very much important to run smoothly and successfully for betterment of the children. And any institution cannot run without having a strong fundamental principle. Thus, our safe space model has that. Our safe space model talks about inclusivity. It talks about maintaining the privacy and confidentiality of children and giving respect and dignity irrespective of what caste, religion, or vulnerability the child is carrying with. It also talk about stimulating such a child friendly environment that leads the child development and participation. Not only that, the principle itself talk about the safe space should have an integrated program and services which provide an holistic package to the children for their development. Next, please. So, as I talk about the principle of the safe spaces, how it is important, it also important to understand the non-negotiable pillars that driving the safe space functions so smooth. Why the safe space is very important and how we can make the safe space more child friendly. So, these are the driving principle which helped us.
Shilpa, Silpa, we've lost your voice. Can you please check your audio?
Hello.
Yeah, now it is audible. I think you'll have to go a little back. Uh, we
Okay.
lost you. Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so sorry. So, as I was shared in my previous slide about the principles of fundamental principles for running a smooth safe space, there are also some non negotiable pillars that driving the safe spaces child friendly way. It talks about the inclusivity of all the children. It's also talk about the promoting child participation through multi-sectoral convergence, which is very much important in ensuring rights of the children. Um, Ensuring rights of the children, it's also talk about bringing the duty bearers and children together for empowering, and this all actually helps to provide a platform where children come and talk about their issues and get the solutions for ensuring unnecessary family separation. Next slide, please. So it is very important. So as we have understood what are the driving fundamental principles, the driving pillars to run a successful safe space model, but we need to also understand that what are the facilities and services that a safe space gives. So here I have listed down in this presentation few of the activities and services that safe space is providing to the children and the community, but we cannot limit to this. We always believe learning by doing, and we always believe in child participation. So I want to share that the safe space activities and safe space services can be designed basis on the need of the children. That is very important. But in the Jharkhand context, whatever we have learned from our experiences, these are the services we provide. So since we have seen so many dropout cases and irregularity to school, because children are somehow find slow learners, and children are also finding difficulties to get solution for their academic support, so we provide remedial classes. We also designed few positive child engage activity in a such a way so that children, by learning, they can learn lot of awareness about their rights, their need, and whatever changes, bodily changes they are having during their adolescence. That is very important. Apart from that, this safe space also offer indoor and outdoor sports, which help them for physical and social development. This safe space, as I said, it is having a multi-sectoral convergence. This provide a platform to the children and child protection committee to sit face to face and discuss about the issues the children are facing, and child protection committee to provide a possible solution on an immediate basis. Not only collectively, but the safe space also focuses on each and every child, which helps for early identification of vulnerabilities of children. Thus, the child protection committees help those children to link with alternative care mechanism as well. So in Jharkhand, we are having the sponsorship scheme. It's helped children and the family to meet their needs by providing financial aid. And this is the primary stage which helps the unnecessary, stopping the unnecessary family separation. And yes, this safe space allowed the children of the community to create a collective will. So by giving lot of awareness session, academic support, positive engagement, special day celebration, this safe space and a holistic offers a child a platform to share all their rights. Next, please. So as I said that the community safe space must be a very child friendly place. So we have some tools and ICs which help us and the children to make this safe spaces child friendly. So the children and the adolescent and the child protection committee come up with the social maps to find out the pockets where to intervene much. There are some ICs material on child protection to create awareness. There are meeting cycles for child protection committee and adolescents. And the best part is that the children themselves prepared the daily routine and the positive activities for the safe space, which completely promotes the child participant. And that's the thing, when you visit anytime our safe spaces, you will find that the children and the community owned the safe spaces more than even us. Next slide, please. This is the few glimpse of the IC materials. As you see, the very cute one hanging library having lot of inspiring stories and a few books. And as you can see, the routine as well, some meeting cycles and the social map. Next slide, please. So here I tried to, in the slide, capture the voices of children and community. Since I'm lacking time, so I am just sharing it in a nutshell. So
Shilpa, we cannot hear you. There was some problem with the audio.
hello.
Yeah, now you're audible. Yeah,
Yes.
please.
So there's a adolescent who shared that, before I never got a platform to share about my experiences. And I was very scared to do that. But when I started coming safe spaces, I got life skill sessions. I participated in many special day programs. And now I'm so confident enough and I know how to do an effective communication. And she loved this version of herself. That is very interesting for us. And another one part was that this safe spaces helped at the community to ensure attraction towards education and helping children from dropping out from the school. Next slide, please. So as I said, we have got an understanding how the community safe space look like and how it is helping to preventing unnecessary family separation at the very beginning, preventing stage through promoting alternative care to linking with welfare scheme by doing family strengthening. But it cannot be a NGO run show, right? If we want to sustain it, if we want to sustain the impact of it throughout our nation for ensuring rights of the children, it is very much important to integrate it within the system, within the policy. For that, as a CSO partner, we need to come together in a platform and discuss about it. As per my understanding, I have pointed out three things that we need to come up together for doing a kind of a study on it, where we can capture some good impactful numbers and best practices and find out the ministries where we can pitch in. so that a dialogue can be initiated just like we are doing right now. And also we need to find some scope for funding, because without money nothing is possible, we know that, right? So we need to find the funding opportunity within the policy, within the system, that where this can be integrated so that throughout the nation it can be run. But yes, CINI is doing it in the Jharkhand, and we didn't stop only by implementing the components of safe spaces, but we also thought of sustaining it. How? Making in two-way process. First, which is community led. So if you visit our safe spaces right now, you will find that the safe spaces is being run by the community itself. How? The adolescents are now facilitating as a learning facilitator, providing academic support. There are adults who are giving their full time as a caregivers over there. And there is a safe space management committee who is dedicatedly managing the safe spaces. And yes, we have also collaborated with Jharkhand government education department, where their own project Setu Kendra is collaborated with the safe space, and now it is running like that. So next slide please. So this how I have tried my best to bring our 5 years of running safe space experiences in just 9 to 10 slides. And though I have less time, but I wanted to give more examples how this makes more child-friendly community, how this bring happiness to the faces of children. But at the last, I want to set that yes, community safe space is very much required for stopping the unnecessary family separation and to provide rights of the children through integrating them in at the community's decision making process. And thank you
Thank
everyone for patientfully listening me. Thank you.
Thank you, Shilpa. You have given a very positive picture, and the requirement of safe space actually. And so many questions already arrived. We will go to you next level. But before that, because you have raised many questions, listening to you, being a layman, being a other person who is not actually implementing safe space that way, they have a bunch of questions. Like, for example, you've also said, like, what are the financial implications can be. Huh? So, when system will adapt, it's in a long run maybe, but before that, how to manage and what are the legalities? Because in JJ Act there is no such nomenclature or that kind of institutional space has been given. So, we will go to our next speaker, Mr. Ashfaq Ahmed Mattu. And as already shared, that there is a connection between Rwanda model, then this Jharkhand model. Maybe in national level also, many such models can be explored in a long run. But within this 1.5 hour webinar, we are capturing two national models, and the next model will be our model of Jammu and Kashmir. So we will go to our next speaker. Sir, over to you. And you say how positive this Jharkhand presentation was is actually implementable in other states or even Jammu and Kashmir. And these a little bit nitty-gritties we would like to know, like financial implications and legalities. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Lena, for the wonderful words. Thankful to Shilpa also for that wonderful presentation, and Mark, who just laid the foundation for this webinar with beautifully explaining the safe spaces concept. While I was listening to Mark, I was really in my head, I was like trying to see the safe spaces that we have been running and establishing here. We have running and established here from last 8 years now. I was really seeing that how those different components of safe spaces as defined, how we have actually put them into the practice. In my presentation also, I would explain that. uh, First of all, a very good afternoon to everybody, and salam, namaste, sasriyakal to all the participants. It's really encouraging to see we have almost 80 participants attending this important discussion. that also shows the interest of people in the whole concept. Can we move to the presentation, Kavita? So we in Jammu and Kashmir, we are running community-based safe spaces for children and adolescents. This program is being supported, and I would say it's a baby child of UNICEF India, who initially started with this pilot, and in the process many organizations came together to make this dream a reality for children in Jammu and Kashmir. Currently, three partners are implementing. One is our organization, Jammu and Kashmir Association of Social Workers. Then we have Humanity Welfare Organization Helpline, and then we have third partner, KY. These three partners together in different districts are implementing this intervention uh, from last many years. And over these years, as I say, there has been an evolution of this project, which I would be discussing in the next slide. How the project itself has evolved over these years, and also I would like to mention other organizations who are currently not part of the project, but organizations like Koshish, organization like HVOW, organization like K4, who in those initial years played their part in making this dream into a reality. As many of you friends would know, the background of launching these safe spaces in J&K has been the political turmoil that J&K was going through from last 3.5 decades. In 2016, many of you might remember that there was a huge political unrest in Valley. For almost 9 months, everything was disturbed. Schools were closed. There were violent demonstrations happening. Violence was everywhere. Curfews were there. Civilian curfew was there. Hartals was there. So this like completely disrupted the normal life of children here. And in this backdrop, UNICEF at that time, along with some of us, were brainstorming that what can we do for children in such turmoil situations. And this is how the basis for creating these safe spaces for children was laid. Initially, I would say I have termed it as a conception phase in 2016. 10 such spaces were created in Srinagar district only as a pilot. And at that time, the aim was providing children with some kind of physical safety and some emotional support uh, during that highly volatile situation. But in the pilot itself, we realized it as partners that how effective these spaces were for children, because children were getting a space where they could be themselves. They could, for some time at least, for the time the space was operational, they could get some respite from the whole environment, which was very disturbing at that time. They could get some respite from that, and they could enjoy themselves, be themselves, feel safer, share what they were going through. So then the beginning of the actual intervention began from 2017 18. The spaces were extended to 180 areas in districts like Srinagar, Badgam, Pulwama, Anantnag, Shupen, and Baramulla, which were very volatile districts at that time, especially the southern districts like Pulwama, Shupen, um, and Srinagar also. In this phase, like why I am explaining, because it has not happened in one go. How it has project or the intervention has evolved during this period. The engagement of the children was more like through playway activities, games, sports, and we were also providing some mental health support. School engagement was done, and because many spaces were launched, so we also formulated some basic SOPs for maintaining and running these spaces. And then in next phase 2019-21, which I have termed as a rethinking phase, we gaining from the experience that we got from the first phase of the project and pilot phase of the project, we realized that the needs of children at these spaces was different. The group, the age group which we term as children up to the age of 11 years, were having completely different needs, and they were also there was also what interests them in terms of engagement. And then there were adolescents who had completely different interests of engagement, and their needs were different. So we, along with the safe spaces, we also conceptualized the concept of adolescent resource centers or adolescent safe spaces in these centers. And in this year only, all of you know that abrogation of Article 370 happened, and again everything was shut down. Curfews were there. Everything was shut down for next 9 months almost. Schools were closed. So in that time, the it increased the relevance of the adolescent safe spaces, because what we realized through these safe spaces, we were able to prevent adolescents into going into any kind of violent situation. We also, uh, from the learnings of early phase, this was the phase where we launched a structured curriculum for adolescents. एंड इसके साथ साथ में ही ये भी हुआ कि कोविड का जो है, जैसे ही हम एब्रोगेशन के उसमें से निकले अर्ली 2020 से, तो मार्च 20 से कोविड का ये हो गया, तो उसमें हमें और रेलेवेंस, बिकॉज आइसोलेशन था, बाकी सारी चीजें थी, तो वी रीच इट टू द चिल्ड्रन थ्रू टेक्नोलॉजी, ऑनलाइन मीडियम्स, keeping in mind the COVID protocols. So it really helped children, and we also provided children with mental health, psychosocial support. We began in this phase some kind of a community ownership, where community provide the spaces to run these spaces. And now we are in this phase, what I have termed as stabilization phase, where along with all these things, we are working on system strengthening. We are expanding into tribal communities. We are having specific curriculums for different age groups. We are working on community mobilization. And as there was a question about sustainability of these centers, it is my pleasure to share here that we are working towards this. And in this phase, we have been able to have 24 such spaces by now, which are completely community owned, where community is completely supporting in running the spaces, which is a big thing, without any government support. Next. So broadly, if you view the goal of our project is to creating de-stressing spaces uh, and building community-based child protection mechanisms for children and adolescents. Largely, if you see our model, what it does, I think some of this was also touched by Shilpa. We work on resilience building. We work on strengthening community-based child protection mechanisms. We work with, like, for example, we work with strengthening VLCPs. We work on system strengthening at district and at state level. We do linkages and referrals. For that, we do a lot of case management. We also do policy advocacy to bring in changes for children. It provides an opportunity of participation for children, for community, for parents, and of course inclusion. It's not only I would like to explain here one thing in the inclusion. When the situation is volatile, it is not only inclusion about inclusion of gender or inclusion of differently abled, uh, but it's also about inclusion of all the children. We sometimes we say children from well-off families may not be facing the all problems, but when it is a conflict situation, that child also is having equal amount of stress that the child goes through. So it is an inclusive space for every children, irrespective of their gender, caste, class. uh, that's next. So, what is our engagement in the CFS centers? One is that we have age appropriate curriculums, because over the period, our learning has been that unless and until you have a structured curriculum, and we have completely, as my earlier panelists said, that we use it as an educational space also, but it is our, I'm not commenting anything. Different things work at different places, but what we have observed that uh, pr- providing educational formal education kind of translates it into a tuition center. Then the expectations of parents completely change. They expect from a safe space that it is a kind of a tuition center which provides educational support to the child. We have completely delinked, and that also shows success of our model, because we are not providing any education. Still children are coming to the centers in huge numbers. So we have age appropriate curriculum for engagement of different categories of children. We provide engagement also through engagement of children into art and sports. We have very successfully done across all the partners civic engagement, especially of adolescents, where adolescents identify action projects in their communities. It could be something like not having a female teacher in the school. It could be like school doesn't have a boundary. It could be about garbage dumping. It could be about not having a separate toilet in the school, or it could be non-functional Anganwadi center. It could be about dispensing of sanitary pads. So these small projects, because it also gives children an opportunity to take up these skills, that how do they demonstrate later on their lives, how they can actually become change adults. Then MHPHS, because given the situation here, has been one of our pillars of our intervention, where lot of children who face psychosocial issues are provided primary counseling. They are identified, cases are identified for referrals to secondary and tertiary care institutes, and from there a lot of, we have so thousands of case stories over these years, where a lot of children have been brought out of depression, PTSD, and other such issues because of as I said, we also to reach out to the, because what happens for our friends here, I would like to, sometimes the NGO models remain very stuck to very few numbers. So we have broken that by reaching out to larger numbers. We have our community-based CFS safe space centers, and at the same times we are reaching to other children, unreached children, to school-based safe space centers also. Then referral linkages, like I said, to different children, like linking children with sponsorship schemes, with other NGOs, with health services, with dropout children, with school. So a lot of this is done. Uh, like I have been associated in my career from last 24 years with different projects, some of which I have initiated. But this is one project I feel is a comprehensive package for children, where the center itself is now slowly becoming an epicenter of child protection in a community or a village. Next. So then we also work on strengthening community-based child protection mechanism. This is done by strengthening VLCPs at the community level, by doing capacity building, interfaces, awareness. We have a very strong base of volunteers from the community, and there is engagement with them, engagement with frontline workers. We train them for early identification. We work with other stakeholders like PRI members, teachers, health workers. We also liaison with government on collaboration for policy advocacy. Then we also build linkages with government and non-government institutions. And then, as I said, sustainability, because that has been a kind of question going on in our heads, that how do you actually make it sustainable. Now, government, whether it will take up that initiative or incorporate it in some of its issues, it's a long dream, because government decisions take a longer period of time. So we kind of put this idea in some of the communities which were responsive, which where we have been working. Can they own slowly? It also went from step to step. Like first they gave this space to run the center for the free, some community space, a panchayat space, or a darasgah, or a masjid space, or any other community space, or somebody sarpach or somebody gave a room in his home as a first major. Then slowly we started with other, like the stationery for children in the center that is used, books that are used. Then slowly now these 24 centers are supporting the salaries of the center animators also, which is a huge thing from where we started, where we were actually giving everything. So it also shows that the community itself is finding value in the whole. These are some of the numbers. I don't think I'll go through the numbers, but just to highlight a few things, we are currently operating 300 child-friendly spaces and adolescent space centers. We are in this phase reaching out to 64,000 children out of and the other data is here. Next. So this is the curriculum I was talking about, because many times we feel कि बच्चों के साथ कुछ भी करेंगे, हाथ हिलाएंगे वगैरह, ये सब आर्ट एंड क्राफ्ट में, बट उससे उनकी कितनी लर्निंग हो रही है. So it has been a realization that we need to. So for 6 to 11-year-olds, we have Dastani Kaleen. We have termed it as Dastani Kaleen, which is an innovative educational framework that uses storytelling and creative engagement to children to explore their identities and resilience. Then we have 12 to 18 years for that is a hukus bukus, we call it, which is a Kashmiri term, which translates to like call for self-realization and awareness of one's identity. Then we have F reason, which is emotional well-being, where we talk about emotional well-being of children. Next. So these are the names are changed. Some of I may not go through all of them, but you can, if you are able to read. Next. यहाँ पे भी जैसे Sahreen, her name has been changed. It's one girl in one of our centers. She says that I emerged from depths of despair stronger and more resilient than ever before. My participation in center level activities, once unthinkable, is now a source of joy and empowerment. I have found my voice not in changing my pitch, but in using it to advocate for self-acceptance and understanding. Similarly, Shahid is saying spending 2 hours each day at the ARC brought immense joy and meaning to my life. CF has become a place of refuge where I could rejuvenate, myself emotionally and positively influence the lives of others facing hardships. Similarly, this is a photo gallery we can quickly go through, because Kavita is reminding me that I have gone overboard, because it's a journey of 8 years, so there is a lot to tell. I have really cut it into a very my friends who are attending from the project from our intervention would not be happy कि मैंने सारा नहीं बोला, तो वो एक इशू है। अब सारा बहुत 10 मिनट में सब भी नहीं बोल सकते, मेरे ख्याल से मैंने 15 मिनट भी ले लिए। तो ये कुछ पिक्चर्स हैं, जैसे आप देख सकते हैं कम्युनिटी बेस्ड सेंटर्स की। नेक्स्ट। सो ये स्कूल बेस्ड सेंटर है, ये एक इनफॉर्मल काउंसलिंग सेंटर एट द सेंटर, काउंसलिंग सेशन विद द चाइल्ड having some issue that is going on. This is an adolescent center. These are awareness meetings on child protection. Next. This is community engagement, whereby we work with, involve lot of community members in our work. Thank you all. Thank you AICN for giving me this time. Thank you Kavita and her team.
Thank you so much, and I'm really sorry I had to remind you because we have one more panelist who would be sharing his model. So I'm really sorry, but yes, we can again connect and have a more time for
If
you
there
to
are any
share.
questions, I think
We'll come
later.
back to you.
Okay,
Thank you so much. Yes, Lena, please go ahead. Lena, you're not audible, Lena. Hello?
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ashfaq ji and Shilpa. Both of you have various questions already came up in our chat box. We will go to you. But before that, in your presentation, those question was reminding us, like when CSOs are numbers, how many CSOs are working? Since the numbers is very minimum, so we always look for the system. And here now we would like our, I'd like to hear from our next esteemed speaker, our next panelist, Mr. Ved Prakash Tiwari, DCPO Ranchi, झारखंड से। उनसे हम सुनेंगे क्योंकि स्टेट्स पर्सपेक्टिव ऑन सेफ स्पेसेस एंड दिस मल्टी कन्वर्जेंट अप्रोच जो आपने बार बार बता रहे थे कि एडुकेशन भी चाहिए, मेंटल वेलबींग की जरूरत है, देन हेल्थ, न्यूट्रिशन, क्लाइमेट चेंज क्या नहीं है, बिकॉज सेफ स्पेस means all this convergence is required. And being a CSO, you are implementing a model which is very important. But system के पास हम जाएंगे तो क्या होंगे, उसके लेन से हम कैसे देखते हैं कि कितना जरूरत है इस मॉडल का। तो ओवर टू यू सर, मिस्टर वेद प्रकाश तिवारी, डीसीपीओ रांची, आपसे हम सुनेंगे।
जी नमस्कार। नमस्कार मैम, सभी को नमस्ते। मैं वेद प्रकाश तिवारी, जिला बाल संरक्षण पदाधिकारी रांची के पद पर कार्य कर रहा हूं, और इससे पहले भी मेरा चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन में कार्य करने का अनुभव है। मैं अलग अलग स्ट्रीम्स पे चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन के लीगल वर्क पे काम किया हूं। तो अभी एज ए डीसीपीओ मुझे बच्चों की सुरक्षा और उनके विकास पर काम करने का अनुभव प्राप्त है, जिसमें मैं इस मंच से बच्चों की सुरक्षा और उनके विकास और समाज में उनकी भागीदारी के बारे में अगर मुझे चर्चा करने के लिए ये मौका दिया गया है, उसके लिए मैं बहुत आभारी हूँ। हमारे समाज में बच्चों की सुरक्षा और उनके समुचित विकास के लिए कई पहलुओं पर ध्यान देना आवश्यक होता है। विशेषकर झारखंड के परिप्रेक्ष्य में मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि हमारे यहाँ जो ग्रामीण सुदूर क्षेत्र हैं, जहाँ पे बच्चों के लिए स्कूल एकमात्र ऐसा स्थान होता है जहाँ बच्चे कुछ लर्न कर पाते हैं और खेल कूद में भाग ले सकते हैं। जब भी स्कूल से हमारे जब बच्चे घर पर आते हैं, तो अभी ऐसा है कि हमारे यहाँ झारखंड में बहुत सारा ऐसा परिवार है जो सुदूर क्षेत्र में है, जो कमाने के लिए अपने अपने काम पे चले जाते हैं। जैसे उनका जो है 5 बजे काम करने के बाद वो वापिस आते हैं, लेकिन बच्चे जब स्कूल से आते हैं तो वो अकेले होते हैं और उनके माता पिता जो है अपनी दैनिक जिम्मेदारी में व्यस्त रहते हैं। तो बच्चे जो है उस समय जो होता है वो स्पेस होता है जो बिना देख रेख के हो जाते हैं, और ऐसा हम लोग को लगता है कि उस पीरियड में बच्चे को देखभाल अगर नहीं होता है तो उनको जो है उन पे नकारात्मक प्रभाव पड़ सकता है और बच्चे को मतलब गलत संगति में पड़ सकते हैं। तो इस संदर्भ में हम ये कहना चाहेंगे कि जो ओपन स्पेस, जो कम्युनिटी लेवल, जो सेफ स्पेस की बात की जा रही है, तो उस पे हमको उस समय लगता है कि बच्चों के लिए सेफ स्पेस की आवश्यकता है, जहां बच्चे न केवल सुरक्षित रहते हैं बल्कि अपनी समस्याओं को साझा भी करते हैं। बच्चों के अंदर बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं जो बहुत अपनी समस्याओं को साझा जो है नहीं कर पाते हैं, तो वो जो सेफ स्पेस होता है कम्युनिटी लेवल पे, वो अपनी समस्याओं को भी साझा करते हैं। सेफ स्पेस बच्चों को सुरक्षित वातावरण, खेलकूद, सकारात्मक गतिविधि, अपनी समस्याओं पर चर्चा करने का अवसर प्रदान करती है। रांची में मैंने सीनी संस्था द्वारा चलाए जा रहे समुदाय आधारित सेफ स्पेस का दौरा किया है। मैं देखा हूँ वहाँ सेफ स्पेस में बच्चों को न केवल शिक्षा मिलती है बल्कि वे खेल, चित्रकला, कहानी सुनने, अपनी समस्याओं पर चर्चा करने जैसी गतिविधियों में भी भाग लेते हैं। तो ये मैंने देखा कि सेफ स्पेस बच्चों को अपनी समस्याओं को प्रोटेक्शन है से साझा करने का अवसर है। एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से हम लोग से एक कोऑर्डिनेशन कर संपर्क स्थापित करती है और बच्चों को जो भी मदद होती है, जिस तरह के बच्चों की आवश्यकता है डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से मदद की, वो मदद उनको की जाती है, जिससे बच्चों का जो खतरे का स्तर है वो हम लोग कम कर सकते हैं। उनका परिवार जो इस पीरियड में जो सेफ गैप में जो है नहीं रहते हैं, तो उस पीरियड में बच्चों का भटकाव नहीं हो, बच्चे को सेफ स्पेस में रह के उनकी समस्याओं को हम लोग साझा कर पाए। और प्रोटेक्शन कमिटी जो हमारा है वो हम डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के साथ उनको साझा करें और हम जो है ये देख पाएंगे कि उनका परिवार जो है, परिवार के बिना रहने का उनके वजह जो है, उससे हम लोग अलग होने से उनका बचाव कैसे कर सकते हैं। तो हम लोग इस पे अभी देख रहे हैं कि झारखंड में अभी मिशन वात्सल्य जो भारत सरकार के द्वारा जो मिशन वात्सल्य योजना संचालित है, उस पे जो है अभी पंचायत स्तर पर भी 5% जो अनटाइड फंड है उसको यूज करने का प्रावधान किया गया है, जिससे कि हमको लगता है कि कम्युनिटी पे हम लोग जो है बच्चों का जो है सेफ स्पेस का निर्माण कर सकते हैं और उनको हम सुरक्षा प्रदान कर सकते हैं। बच्चों का सर्वांगीण विकास हो, हम लोग को ये प्राथमिकता के तौर पर ये देखने की आवश्यकता है कि जो भी ऐसे सुदूर क्षेत्र में ऐसे परिवार हैं जो कहीं ना कहीं बच्चे जो है, मतलब परिवार जो है अगर 3 घंटा या 4 घंटा ही समय है, परिवार के बिना अगर बच्चे हैं तो पूरी संभावना रहती है कि बच्चे कहीं ना कहीं वल्नरेबल होंगे। किस अलग अलग तरीके के बच्चों का जो है मानसिकता होती है, तो बच्चों को हमको एक सेफ स्पेस देना चाहिए और वो सेफ स्पेस से हमको लगता है कि बच्चों का सर्वांगीण विकास होगा। तो सेफ स्पेस बच्चों को समाज में सक्रिय जिम्मेदार नागरिक बनने के लिए प्रेरित करता है, साथ ही उन्हें कुशल व्यवहार को सीखने के लिए भी प्रेरित करता है। यहाँ वे अपने अधिकारों के प्रति जागरूक होते हैं। बच्चों को बताया जाता है कि चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन से रिलेटेड अगर कम्युनिटी लेवल पर सेफ स्पेस हमारा है तो हम बच्चों को क्या अधिकार है, क्या कर्तव्य, उनको हम बताते हैं, तो बच्चे जागरूक होते हैं और अपनी समस्याओं को उचित तरीके से हल करने की दिशा में हम लोग कदम बढ़ाते हैं। तो ये सेफ स्पेस जो है अभी हमें लगता है कि सेफ स्पेस का जो है जो कॉन्सेप्ट है, जो रांची में हमको लगता है कि जो संचालित एकमात्र जो है
I think we're not able to hear him. Sir, can you hear us? वेद प्रकाश
जो अभी संचालित है देखा है, ऐसे सेफ स्पेस का जो अलग बच्चे का जो वल्नरेबिलिटी है, जैसे बच्चों के लिए सेफ स्पेस को संस्थागत रूप से भी हम लागू कर सकते हैं, लेकिन इसके लिए हमें जो है काफी कुछ अध्ययन करने की जरूरत है और इस कार्य प्रणाली को अध्ययन करने के उपरांत हम लोग ये सुनिश्चित कर सकेंगे कि बच्चों के लिए या कितने फायदेमंद हो सकते हैं। अभी मिशन वात्सल्य के जो गाइडलाइंस है उसके तहत जो है जो 5% अनटाइड फंड का इस्तेमाल कर हम लोग कम्युनिटी लेवल पर सेफ स्पेस का जो निर्माण कर सकते हैं। तो हमको लगता है कि पंचायत स्तर पर इसके लिए हम लोग को प्रयास करना चाहिए और ये जहाँ पे भी माइंस का ये होता है, जो खनिज वाला क्षेत्र जो है, वहाँ के जो डीएम होते हैं, वो उनका जो डीएमएफटी फंड होता है, उस फंड के माध्यम से भी हम लोग एक नया पहल कर सकते हैं और बच्चों को सुरक्षित वातावरण प्रदान कर सकते हैं। तो हमें लगता है कि ये बहुत अच्छा टॉपिक्स है और इस पे हम लोग को काम करने की आवश्यकता है। जो झारखंड के परिप्रेक्ष्य में मेरा कहना है कि अभी हमें जहाँ तक ज्ञात है, हम तो रांची जिले से हैं, लेकिन इस पे अभी बहुत कुछ काम नहीं हुआ है। एकमात्र जगह है जहाँ पे संचालित है, तो इस पे काम करने की जरूरत है, जहाँ हम लोग बच्चे को वल्नरेबिलिटी से बचा सकते हैं, उनके सर्वांगीण विकास कर सकते हैं, उनके लिए उनके बेहतर भविष्य के लिए, उनकी पढ़ाई लिखाई, खेल विकास के लिए हम लोग कार्य कर सकते हैं।
थैंक यू सो मच वेद प्रकाश जी। और आपने काफी अच्छे से बहुत डिटेल में अपने दो इम्पोर्टेंट चीजें के बारे में बताया। एक है ये सर्वांगीण विकास के बारे में, क्योंकि सिस्टम को बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट रोल प्ले करते हैं यह। एंड सेकेंडली आपने जो डीएमएफटी फंड एंड मिशन वात्सल्य के बारे में बताया, जो एक्चुअली इन फील्ड लेवल एक्सपीरियंस जो काफी इम्पोर्टेंट है आज आपका जानकारी से। थैंक यू। तो हम
जी मैम, जी मैम, इसमें ये हमारा ये है कि बच्चों का एक पार्टिसिपेशन है, जो सेफ स्पेस की जो बात है कम्युनिटी लेवल पे, तो बच्चे खुल के अपनी बातों को उस पे अपने साझा कर सकते हैं। तो उनका एक या पार्टिसिपेशन हो सकता है, तो एक अपनी बात को रखें, अपनी चीजों को उस पे जो कम्युनिटी लेवल पे जो हमारा सीपीसी है वो देखते हैं, और उनके लिए क्या कुछ है तो वो हम लोग डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को फॉरवर्ड करते हैं, और डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के संज्ञान में आने के बाद ये उनके लिए क्या कुछ बेहतर है उसके लिए कार्य करने का एक अवसर मिलता है, और उनका हम लोग जो है उस पर कार्य करते हैं। तो हमारा ये है कि हमारे समाज का भी एक कर्तव्य है कि हम बच्चों को उनका हक दिलवाएं, उनके उज्जवल भविष्य के लिए कार्य करें। तो एक कम्युनिटी को स्ट्रेंथन करना एक बहुत बड़ा चीज है, और सेफ स्पेस एक ये जो है, हमें लगता है कि हम लोग को इस पर कार्य करने की और जरूरत है। थैंक यू मैम, इस वेबिनार का हिस्सा बनने के लिए आभारी हैं, और हमें लगता है कि जी मैम।
हाँ, आपके लिए और एक क्वेश्चन है। क्वेश्चन के बाद हम आपको छोड़ेंगे, क्योंकि हमें बाकी पैनलिस्ट के पास और भी कुछ क्वेश्चन लेके जाना है। एक क्वेश्चन आपके पास है कि जो एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ रिस्पॉन्डिंग टू चिल्ड्रन एंड एडोलेसेंट विद डिसेबिलिटीज इन सच स्पेसेस, डिसेबिलिटी के ऊपर जब आते हैं तो कैसे क्या रिस्पॉन्स होते हैं फ्रॉम दिस सेफ स्पेसेस।
डिसेबिलिटी जो ये एक बहुत ये भी गंभीर मामला है। अगर इस तरह का डिसेबिलिटीज के केसेस हैं, तो हम लोग को बच्चों के लिए जो अभी हम लोग जो बात कर रहे हैं सेफ स्पेस के लिए, तो ये अभी जैसे हर जगह विलेज लेवल चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन कमिटी जो है अभी काम कर रही है, लेकिन उसको स्ट्रेंथन करना, तो हम लोग एक अभी आइडेंटिफिकेशन का काम कर रहे हैं कि जहाँ भी इस तरह के स्पेशल नीड्स के बच्चे हैं, तो उनको वो सेफ स्पेस, मतलब सेफ स्पेस के बारे में जानकारी हो, और उनको सेफ स्पेस पर उनके लिए मतलब इस तरह का एक स्ट्रक्चर बनाया जाए जहाँ पे बच्चे अपना समय जो है अच्छे से व्यतीत कर पाए। जैसे बच्चों के लिए जो खेल कूद का जो स्पेशल चाइल्ड के लिए जो व्यवस्था होती है, उस ऐसा कम्युनिटी पे सेफ स्पेस का निर्माण किया जाए, जहाँ पे उन बच्चों का भी सर्वांगीण विकास हो। जब वो बच्चे भी हमारे स्कूल में जब जाते हैं, पढ़ के आते हैं, तो वो घर पे आने के बाद जो होता है कि जो स्पेस उनको नहीं मिलता है, उस तरह का साधन नहीं होता है, तो वो सेफ स्पेस जो कम्युनिटी लेवल पर उस तरह का भी निर्माण होना चाहिए, ताकि बच्चे वहां अपना समय व्यतीत करें, खेल कूद करें, उनका उस सर्वांगीण विकास हो, और अगर किसी तरह की समस्या है तो वो वहां साझा करें। सहभागिता उनका भी सुनना है, किस तरह की कठिनाई है, तो ये अधिकार जो है उनको भी बताना है। तो हमें लगता है कि मतलब उस तरह का स्ट्रक्चर जो है, जैसे एक नॉर्मल जो सेफ स्पेस की हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं दिव्यांग बच्चों के लिए, एक सेफ स्पेस होना चाहिए अपना देश।
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I think some technical, audio issue is there. बट थैंक यू, आपने बहुत सुंदर से हमें पूरा क्लैरिफाई किया. एंड वी विल कम टू अवर नेक्स्ट पैनलिस्ट मिस्टर अशफाक अहमद मद्दू. सर, आपके लिए क्वेश्चन है कि एनी इंटरवेंशन विद पेरेंट्स एट दिस सेंटर. So anyone can take. I will go for the panelist Ashfaq Ahmed Madhu sir. कि any intervention with parents at these centers.
जी लीना, बेसिकली हम लोग ना पेरेंट्स के साथ भी बातचीत करते हैं, और एक हमारा पॉजिटिव पेरेंटिंग पे हमने कुछ सेशंस बनाए हैं, जो हम पेरेंट्स के साथ एक रेगुलर फीडबैक सेशंस चलते हैं, फीडबैक वगैरह के. तो पेरेंट्स का एंगेजमेंट तो काफी जरूरी है, बिकॉज पेरेंट्स एक इम्पॉर्टेंट स्टेक होल्डर है उसमें. सेकेंडली, दे आर ऑल्सो पार्ट ऑफ द कम्युनिटी. सो if you have to generate that goodwill for the safe space in the community, it's very important. और चूंकि पेरेंट्स हम चूंकि काफी हम यहाँ थोड़ा मैं बहुत ब्रीफ में बोलूंगा कि हम लोग काफी इंटरजेनरेशनल डायलॉग्स भी करते हैं occasionally between parents and children. A lot of issues these days are between actually parents and children, which we don't realize कि बच्चा बोल रहा है कि मुझे पेरेंट समय नहीं दे रहा है, ऐसे इंटरफेसेस में निकल के आया. या डिस्क्रिमिनेशन इन फूड इज हाईलाइटेड बाय गर्ल चाइल्ड, या नॉट गिविंग चॉइस ऑफ हायर एजुकेशन टू गर्ल चाइल्ड कि वो कौन सा सब्जेक्ट लेंगे, क्या लेंगे, या कुछ और जो माँ बाप के आपस में नहीं बनती है, तो उसके तो इस तरीके का पेरेंट एंगेजमेंट. बट उसमें भी हमने ये किया है कि थोड़े स्ट्रक्चर्ड सेशंस बनाए हैं उसमें, जिसमें एक जो है एक पॉजिटिव डायरेक्शन पेरेंट्स को भी मिले कि हाउ टू लाइक डील विद द चिल्ड्रन.
Thank you a lot, Kavita. Should I take one more question, or because time constraint is there,
Yes.
but there are
Yeah.
a lot of questions and we have to
I
plan for
know.
one more webinar, I think.
Maybe, yes, definitely. I think there was one question. I don't know. I can read the question, or maybe you can read the question, and then we can ask the Mark to answer that question. Or if the person would like to ask the question directly, I'll just inform the question for the question.
This is, I think, this one you were talking about.
Local leaders at the establishment. Yeah.
By engaging with local leaders at the establishment and let them lead it, also create a safe space management committee, which is led by and includes people from the community, including young people and, if possible, people with disabilities.
Yeah.
So
basically, this question was asked. I don't know who had asked this question. So the question was, what are some of the tried and tested successful methods of ensuring ownership of the initiatives? So Mark, if you can answer this question, that would be great. Am I audible to Mark?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, Lena started to answer it. Yeah, I think that it's really about engaging with the local community leadership, faith leaders, those leaders recognized in the community, and letting them lead the process as much as possible. Of course, they'll need some support. And also, as you establish safe space or community safe spaces, engage with those populations which are going to benefit most from the safe spaces, and let them have a voice in the management of the safe spaces. I know in Jharkhand we have strong sort of TORs, terms of references for that management team, and let them really decide and run the safe spaces and provide them with some support. But it's really a community-led initiative. That's where the safe spaces operate best, in my experience, from different parts of the world. Additionally, one of the other things that I think in India we have a great opportunity is to link it with the panchayat planning as well. So getting the panchayat level involved in planning of the safe spaces and in management of the safe spaces is also really important.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. I think we can take one more question very quickly. Sana, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
So my question is to Sasab. He talked about intergenerational dialogues. I think something very important for practitioners in the community. But just wanted to know briefly, like what is the method they use for these intergenerational dialogues? Are there any tools or is there any kind of checklist which one can follow to facilitate these dialogues?
Uh, Ji, thank you, Sana. Basically, you had earlier also raised a question. Let me answer that also in one go. Try to answer that also about the curriculum. Basically, curriculum that we have made, we follow the, because you have said that you are also into curriculum making yourself, that we follow the Walker learning cycle in our curriculum, which follows that mind jog, personal connection, information exchange, information application, and real world connect. So then, even if we are talking about life skills, we do it through that method. Any life skill, we do it through that using that methodology only. About the intergenerational dialogues, there is no tool as such, to be very honest, but it's informed to the parents and children in advance, and children make a few skits around the issues that they have located. They perform it in front of their elders, and then they sit and discuss these issues. Elders also, because it opens up parents a little bit and gives a more acceptance to the student. And then what we do, if there is a specific parent to child dialogue that needs, that is done with our facilitators there, who bring these two people together if a child has an issue with a parent, and that dialogue is facilitated like that, one-on-one dialogue.
Okay.
Hope
Thank
I
you.
answered your question.
And thanks to all the panelists. And within such a short time, you could cover all the questions. And thank you. And next, over to Kavita. And
Thank you, and we really apologize. We cannot take all the questions right now because we are running out of time. Before we close, I would request Mr. JB Oli from Butterflies to please give a concluding mark, and I would request everyone to just stay with us for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Kavita. I won't take 5 minutes because all the speakers spoke in such a detail and with the clarity that I don't think there is something I need to add into. So, however, the discussion was so learning engagement, and the concept of safe space was elaborately explained, and also this concept, I found the whole session so informative, and also all the positive about the concept. The experiences were so positive and motivating that how it is important. And when we talk about safe spaces, what all speakers highlighted, that it's not only the physical space, but the space where children and adolescents have sense of belonging, and also an ownership, and provides a participatory space for children and adolescents. I know how the community also should have the ownership on it. So this is what was so important to listen to everybody, and also how Lena started by explaining that stating that the values and principles which are important to manage such spaces, the people who are managing the such spaces and facilities, how it is important to have values, and also, as highlighted by Silpa, the principles are so important. And then followed by the discussion also highlighted how these spaces have been successful and effective in different contexts, including the context of where there are different set of problems, like political volatile situation in Jammu and Kashmir, and also there's communities where there are so many other risks in the families and communities, and how they can prevent not only poor child protection problems, but as highlighted by Mark, that the safe spaces can also contribute in building communities, preventing school dropouts, and also motivating children to join vocational training, and also skills, and also the having the intergenerational dialogues between parents, communities, and children, as mentioned by Mr. Matwin, Jammu and Kashmir. So this is such a how these safe communities are important and also effective, and how it should be available in the communities for children, because particularly in the in the context where now there is increased isolation of children because of the the parents are involved in their work and occupations and are not available to talk to children, and there is no supervision of adults, and because of that there is a risk of separation, and also other child protection risks. In that situation, having a space within the community accessible to children, which offers a variety of services, and also a space where they can express their feelings, emotions, and engage in recreational activities. Such a brilliant idea. So this is what was so important to learn, and also as mentioned by the Mr. Ved Prakash and others, how these safe spaces need to be promoted, and it should be integrated into government services for children, at local level, at panchayat level, as mentioned by Mark, also at district level, at the state level, and also at the policy level in the government. So this is what I think was the conclusion of today's discussion, and it's so encouraging that we should have several series of discussion on this concept. I think because this is what is very important concept to have in the communities and promote it at local, national, and globally. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, JB sir, for this wonderful summarizing the work and sorry, this session here. And on behalf of IACN, CINI, and Hope and Homes, I would like to thank you all the speakers here, Mr. Ashfaq, Mr. Mark, and Silpa, and Mr. Ved Prakash, for sharing your experiences and model with us. And it's a wonderful session for all of us, and we've learned a lot of things and a very insightful way to, how we can keep the children and families together. That's the motto of IACN also. We are running this network to promote this as well, to promote this only. So thank you again, and please be with us and join us for other sessions also in future, and have a nice day, everyone. Thank you again for joining. Thank you, everyone.